What's up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another episode of the Smark Out Moments Smack Talk podcast. Another fantasy booking episode. This one's actually sponsored by a Patreon Pick Your Poison request. We're going to explain that in a little bit, but first things first, in case you don't know who's talking, I'm Tony Mango, joined by Robert DeFelice.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Starrcade 99.
Callum Wiggins.
Yes.
Yes, we are going back in time. This is a Wrestling with the Past kind of esque version of the fantasy booking. It is not tied into our mock drafts that we've been doing lately, where we've been doing, pick your roster or then book the roster or whatever. This is kind of more of an old school fantasy booking in the sense that we are taking a particular card with a particular roster that's already been predetermined ahead of a time and trying to rebook it. So I guess it's fantasy rebooking, but I'm not giving it a separate name or anything. This is sponsored by Magpie on the Patreon. Thank you to Magpie for sponsoring this. If you don't know how the Pick a Poison tier works, it's pretty simple. You pay for an episode of the podcast or something on the website or, an editorial, whatever it might be. And since you're directly sponsoring that, and that's, dedicating the time that I would normally do towards like writing up an article or something like that, then we do it, unless it's something that's completely, outside the realm of possibility. Like somebody's like, well, I want to sponsor you to watch all of the Royal Rumbles in a row or something. No, it's not happening. But as long as it's
with the right price.
Yeah, everybody's got a price. If the $1 Million Man comes over here and he starts talking about, tossing a lot of change my way, then it may be. I don't know if I ever said it, but a friend of mine actually had Ted DiBiase officiate his wedding. Funny enough.
That's awesome.
So even he has a price when it comes to that. But on the Patreon and on the members side of the YouTube portion of this whole thing, you click on the join button, it'll do the same kind of things as Patreon. Magpie had sponsored us to basically replace Vince Russo as the creative director of WCW in October of 1999. I think it's October 3rd is when he came on board. So it's Russo and Ed Ferrara are kind of spearheading the creative initiative of WCW at that time. And instead of trying to book too much and, multiple months worth of things and all, the target focus is Starrcade 1999, because that's their WrestleMania in a lot of ways. That's what you lead up to. And I mean, is it really like their WrestleMania? It's kind of hard to tell. I mean, it's in the past, it seemed like it was, but around this time frame, it doesn't quite give me that feeling.
I mean, realistically, the argument is the WrestleMania is WWE Starrcade. The Starrcade was first.
I think depends on who you ask. I've always considered Starrcade to be their mania. I know, like Bischoff, for example, considered Halloween Havoc to be their biggest show of the year because of the Slim Jim sponsorship and things of that nature. For some people, I'm sure it was like, I don't know, Super Brawl.
Bash at the Beach has had some really important things.
Yeah, so like with WCW, it's a bit weird, but I always go to Starrcade personally.
Yeah, I mean, they're a little bit more in the AEW side of things, where AEW doesn't necessarily put All Out as like the show. I always thought that it should be because it would make the most sense, but a lot of times it kind of seems like Double or Nothing ends up being their biggest show. But at least in this regard, the fantasy booking is to replace Vince Russo and to lead up to your version of Starrcade 1999. So if you check out something like the SmackDown Hotel that has the roster at that time frame, that's what we're working with as far as the different people that we can book, and the way that we can kind of maneuver them around is sort of up in the air, because I was talking to Rob about this. We were talking to Callum ahead of time too. When we're doing a little bit of research of this, Vince Russo kind of just switched everything up every couple weeks, it seemed. I didn't watch every event ahead of time to do, all the research of like every episode of Nitro and every pay-per-view and all. But I had read some Wikipedia articles of how they had transitioned out of Halloween Havoc and into Starrcade. I rewatched Starrcade and checked out, some clips here and there. There is no continuity to this, it seems. 1 week, you got somebody as a babyface and they're going up against somebody else. The next week, they're suddenly a heel and they're in a completely different tag team dynamic. And then you got, this is the championship match, but then we're going to switch it to this person. And then, we got you. It's actually this. It's like, it's almost impossible to really look at that and go, this is what I would do differently, at least from my perspective. And more so, this is what I would do if you just threw me in October and said, ignore whatever the hell else they did and just, free reign in a lot of ways. You felt that way too, right, Rob?
Yeah, because essentially I looked at what they did at Fall Brawl just to get a grasp on who the most reasonable champions would be. And then I watched the first episode of Nitro from October and I went, there's enough puzzle pieces here to where this should be interesting television. And then I said, okay, I'm just going to say, forget trying to think like Russo or place Russo, and I'm going to go with the roster I had in October and give you a card for December and tell you in the best way possible why I did what I did.
Hey, Callum, what was your initial approach to this?
It was primarily just looking at the people that were on the show, just Starrcade itself, and then looking at like resources like the SmackDown Hotel to pick out people who might not necessarily have been on the show, but at least were technically available or at least like in the mix. And pretty much just going from there because I wanted to, if I was going to approach this with Starrcade 99, I can't just go from, okay, I'm joining the company in October. Because it's just like, this is not going to work. You can't build your biggest show or one of your biggest shows of the year on like 2 months worth of ideas and storylines, really. Because, I mean, obviously Vince Russo couldn't do it because Vince Russo isn't very good at his job.
He's got a couple good ideas in that giant pool worth of ideas.
What I said, like he's got like all like some good ideas. He was like, yeah, they said it's the car crash television aspect.
Yeah, I was gonna say Crash TV.
That's kind of what he does, and it works for a little while, but then eventually it all starts to just fall apart.
Well,
and this one it fell apart pretty much immediately.
The phrase "even a stuck clock is right 2 times a day."
Yeah. It feels like one of those weird things that like you actually like have to have someone like a Vince McMahon to add some sanity into his style of booking, which seems weird that Vince is the person that's being sane.
Well, as I mentioned, this is sponsored by the Patreon. So again, thank you to Magpie for that. And if you are interested in doing something like this in the future, sign up to the Patreon, or if you want to just help us out on, $1 a month or something like that. There are different tiers, not just this Pick a Poison tier, but also some other ways for you to let us know that you enjoy these things that we do are those thanks buttons that you can see right next to the like button on YouTube. You've got, of course, you should be hitting the subscribe button if you haven't done that already, because you should be subscribed to this channel. And you could also pick up merchandise on TeePublic and Redbubble if you're interested in that. And I don't know, if we really, really like anything we got on this card, maybe we'll make some merchandise based off of that. But to give some context to this before we get into our own individual cards, we're just going to quickly run down. This is what they did for Starrcade 1999. So this is what we're erasing from time and replacing with our own ideas for an event that Eric Bischoff called the absolute worst pay-per-view from opening bell to closing bell that I've ever seen in my life. It starts off with the tag team match between Big Vito and Johnny the Bull, accompanied by Tony Marinara, the Mamalukes. It's a team that I did not know fucking existed. Defeating Disco Inferno and Lash LaRue, tag team I didn't know existed until I watched this. I was like, the fuck am I watching? Then you had Medusa win the Cruiserweight Championship from Evan Courageous because Nitro Girl Spice turned on Evan Courageous. There are so many instances on this card of basically the hook for it was somebody interferes and turns, and wouldn't it be interesting if we had a swerve like that? Typical Vince Russo scenario. Norman Smiley retained the Hardcore Championship over Meng because a couple people like Fit Finley attacked Meng. There's an 8-man tag between the Revolutions, Shane Douglas, Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn, and Asia is how they pronounced it, I think, right?
Asia.
Asia?
It's just their
Yeah, because it's China. Yeah, because it's China.
Oh, fuck. I didn't even think of that. That's so goddamn dumb. I hate it even more now. And this is a match where Shane Douglas is on commentary for a good portion of it. I don't understand why, but whatever. They beat Jim Duggan and his tag team partners of the Varsity Club, Kevin Sullivan, Mike Rotunda, and Rick Steiner, accompanied by Kimona Wanalea from ECW as a cheerleader named Leia Meow. When the Varsity Club...
Leia Meow.
The Varsity Club, they chose to team with Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and they beat him up in the match.
Stupid.
And
they're not. They're Varsity.
It's like none of this shit makes sense. You got the Misfits, which I didn't know was another team that was like, you know, who the hell is this and whatever. And it turns out that they're a band.
You not know who the Misfits are?
No, didn't know them.
Callum, do you know who the Misfits are?
It's some kind of band, but
well, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's like one of the, you know, OG like kind of punk bands. It's not like it's a wrestling thing, and they're just the Misfits.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, Vampiro's got a team of people that I don't know exist until right now. And then I look them up, and I'm like, oh, they're a band? Okay, well, even less so of a chance that I'm going to be booking them on my card. But he beats Dr. Death Steve Williams by DQ, which gives him a few minutes with Oklahoma. And
that great stuff.
I honestly, when I'm watching this match, I'm sitting there thinking, Vampiro is the babyface, right? I'm like, some of this shit doesn't make any sense the way that they're booking it, but
well, yeah, he had to be.
Yeah,
well, you're telling me the guy that's pretending to be a guy with cerebral palsy isn't the?
Yeah, but it's like they're going about it in a weird way where it's like certain things that they're doing are kind of the opposite of the heel and face dynamic, and I'm just like, this is backwards ass shit.
This is only a couple of weeks before Oklahoma becomes a cruiserweight champion.
That happens?
Yep.
Yeah, because you can't have a woman. You can't have a woman be the champion. There.
No, you got to have the parody fat guy character play.
Exactly.
The fat guy being the cruiserweight champion.
Yeah. Gerald and Patrick of Creative Control and Kurt Hennig with Shane beat Booker T and Stevie Ray, and they've got Midnight with them. They're arguing over that.
Changing fucking Virgil's name.
Now he's like
he went from Vincent to Shane.
Yeah, it's a mockery of that.
Yeah.
No, he was Curly Bill in October.
Yeah, that's another. When I'm looking at the roster list, I'm like, who the fuck is Curly Bill? Like, I absolutely hate it. You'll see what I do with him a little bit later on. Then there's a bunkhouse brawl between Jeff Jarrett and Dustin Rhodes. A crowbar on a pole match between David Flair and Diamond Dallas Page. David Flair.
The actual crowbar.
Yeah, that would be even better. Then Sting, accompanied by Miss Elizabeth, who he doesn't trust, and rightfully so, beats not Lex Luger, but the Total Package, because he's not going by Lex Luger at this point. He's just the Total Package by disqualification. Oof. There's a powerbomb match between Kevin Nash and Sid Vicious.
I bet that was the best match on the card.
It was one of the most interesting things. Can't say it's good.
Yeah, I haven't watched it back recently, but like I know the reviews say that it's one of the worst matches that WCW produced.
Yeah, let's see who said this on here. Kevin Patoya, I think is how you pronounce it, of 411 Mania, gave it 4.0 rating, poor on their scale. I'm assuming it's out of 10. You could tell Vince Russo was around by just looking at some of the overbooked screwy finishes. The powerbomb match is especially atrocious and kind of epitomizes how dumb WCW was at the time. Yeah, makes sense.
At the time, this is just the start.
Chris Benoit retains the United States Championship over Jeff Jarrett in a ladder match. Jeff Jarrett had wrestled earlier in the night, but we're just going to have him do double duty because why not?
That sounds like it might be fun.
And Bret Hart beats Goldberg by submission in a no DQ match for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. And this is a
That's
match.
not what anyone remembers this for.
This is a match that Bret Hart gets kicked in the head and suffers his concussion and ruins Bret Hart's rest of his career. So it's definitely an event that if you can go back and erase it from history, you should, because this is shit. So with that in mind, we get that, what's the thing from Harry Potter, where they go back in time? It's like a weird necklace or something. I'm not as much of a Harry Potter fan, so we get the pin particles and we go
TARDIS or any other, fictional tool.
Yeah, we get sent back in the time displacement field from Terminator, and now we get to rebook that and save the world from Bret Hart getting kicked in the head and doing all those kind of things. If we want to, with, maybe we keep some things the same. Who knows? Who wants to go first on their rebooking?
I do, just because I'd like to set a bar. I don't know if it's high or low or crow, but I'll set a bar. All right, so I have 9 matches on this card. There is not a single thing from the card that I kept, and I even play around with some of the people that were under contract that don't appear on the 99 Starrcade show. I start off my card by crowning the first ever WCW Hardcore Champion. The original champion was crowned at Mayhem 99, but we're just going to put it at Starrcade, in the Backstage Assault Anarchy match. So this is a 10-man backstage brawl, and it's Disco Inferno, Vampiro, Norman Smiley, La Parka, Finley, Bam Bam, Hugh Morris, Wrath, Brian Knobs, and Ming. And the way I envisioned this would be like a lot of comedy spots, and you kind of just get eliminated, almost, video game style, where if you just get knocked out in a severe enough situation, we're going to assume, last man standing rules here. And Ming becomes the first hardcore champion, because who would want to fuck with Ming?
I think it was Jake Roberts that might have said it, but somebody was like, if I am in a tank and I'm going to fight Ming, I'm going to run.
Yeah, so I think he's the best first hardcore champion.
I like the idea for sure. Why not?
Yeah.
Throw a bunch of weapons and a bunch of people together. That should be fun.
Kind of my thought process as well. Calum, any thoughts on this one?
It's just a hardcore match.
Yeah. Then you get your first in-ring match. Dean Malenko defending the Cruiserweight Championship against Psychosis. And Dean has Perry Saturn with him. Psychosis has Hoovy with him, just to get some more faces in front of the people. And Dean wins the match in what I would assume would be an absolute banger. Lots of high spots, Dean Malenko grounding people. There is kind of the Revolution connection. I did keep, Dean and Perry together. Benoit would also be with them. They've kind of been working with Shane, kind of working with someone else, but there's a lot of personal things going on. This is mostly just to get a great in-ring product, because I think that was one of WCW's pure strengths, and just having a great bell-to-bell match.
Curious why you would open up with the backstage match.
Because in my world, you open up with the thing that matters the least. Here, go ahead, Gal.
So you can't go wrong with Dean Malenko leading a cruiserweight title match, really. So
yeah,
I just think you really just can't go wrong. Here is the first match where I start to play with stuff. You might say for the 2 people that are in this match, it's too low on the card, but you've got a lot of actually really big people in this company. So I'm going to say Rey Mysterio with the Filthy Animals. This is Unmasked Rey, by the way. This is Unmasked Rey. I did not change that. Versus Randy Savage with Team Madness. If you don't know, Team Madness is essentially just Randy Savage's collection of women that he's bringing around with him at that time. And the backstory to this would be the Filthy Animals are kind of doing like the rap thing. They were doing the stuff with Master P earlier in the year. And I just have it that like they steal Savage's women from him on one particular Monday Nitro, and Savage doesn't like this. He beats up Conan. He has a good match with Eddie in the build to this on a Nitro. But I'm saving it for Savage and Ray because I really think that if Savage was going to have okay, I'll try to do my best in 1999, I think he would have fun working with Rey Mysterio. And the way I have it is it's kind of like your standard big man, little man. Ray's using his speed to get around Savage, who at this point he's not even like the 97 Savage that was working with DDP. But Ray will get a quick roll up on Savage. And Savage gets pissed. Oh my God, what happens? Filthy Animals again leave with the girls. And Savage at this point doesn't necessarily have to have another match. It's just this is one of my dream matches for Randy Savage. Like if I could have gotten this match in any way, I was going to do it. And I think the gimmicks lend themselves to this kind of silliness, even though I think the in-ring product would still be a lot of fun.
I mean, Rey Mysterio versus Randy Savage is a match I'd be interested in, at least on paper.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see it from 99's perspective because, I mean, Savage at that point is a well-established top name, and Mysterio is... people know who Mysterio is, but he's, like, really, really small at that point.
Yeah, and he's... I watched him against Dean last night. He's got, like, the overalls going on, and he's really into, like, the... over the top.
Yeah, he's not masked. Yeah,
yeah. And that's why I think it'd be fun to have, you know, kind of it built around the girls, and it's a match that you wouldn't get to see anyway. So why not play around with it? All right, this next match is a WCW Tag Team Championship match. It's Harlem Heat champions, Booker T and Stevie Ray. And they will lose the belts to Rick and Scott Steiner. It's Harlem Heat and Steiners. You cannot go wrong. Even with this updated version of Rick and Scott, I'd argue that they're more vicious than they would have been in their, you know, babyface form. I think it could be one of like Harlem Heat's last great tag matches before everybody here is going to go kind of do their own thing. Rick and Scott have been working with Sid on TV. They're always going to be top-level guys. Booker T has flirted with being a top-level guy by this point, and Stevie's never as good as when he's with Booker. So I think this is the perfect way to kind of go along with this. I'm keeping Harlem Heat the champions from when they beat the West Texas Rednecks at Fall Brawl, and I think this could be the end of their run and the start of the Steiners, who will have, you know, an established name and lots of good work to do with those belts.
Not opposed to the idea of Steiners becoming a tag team again.
Yeah, and like I said, they were kind of already doing this, and I think it's a good time to put the belts on. Now we get into the final stretch of matches is a couple grudge matches and 2 championship matches. So we've got, in the first grudge match, Diamond Dallas Page with Kimberly and Canyon against Lex Luger with Liz and Buff Bagwell. The entire build to this is, I think Kimberly and Liz should fight. I think Page is always a lot of fun as a babyface because the Diamond Cutter lends itself to the ultimate pop. Luger is such a shitbag heel. They had like the Totally Buff connection. I really wasn't a fan of Luger post 97, but you know, he is still a big deal. And Lex Luger wins this match when Canyon ref bump. Canyon turns on DDP, hits him with the Canyon Cutter, and you kind of go off and start that story, and Lex Luger can continue to be a top level heel. There will be a moment where the girls get into it, just because I think it's 99. That's a huge thing in wrestling, and Kimberly and Liz were legitimately two of the most over women of that era. So I think it'd be a lot of fun to have them get involved. And Buff's kind of just there, but he's Buff, he's the stuff, and the girls can't get enough. You know?
I love that. Like, it's funny enough. Almost every time like Buff Bagwell comes up in something like a fantasy booking or whatever, and I'm not somebody who does different from this either. Our philosophy is almost always Buff's there because he's Buff.
Yeah, it's like he's Buff. It's JR once said, "Listen, if looks meant main event, Lex Luger and Buff Bagwell would have made all the money in the world." You know, but it doesn't work that way. Cal, any thoughts on this match?
I mean, I'm not exactly too keen on the idea of Liz and Kimberly getting at it, but I guess it's 99, so that's what you do. I assume if you are pretending to be Vince Russo, you're just doing it to see Liz get her top ripped off. That's literally what entirely like Russo's entire thing in 2000 was, that he tried to get Liz to get naked on TV.
Really, I see that. That's something I actually didn't know, but it doesn't surprise me. No one gets their top ripped off.
He spent most of his teenage years jacking off to her, so just like, hey, I'm in control now.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, they do have the little cat fight. No one gets their clothes ripped off. I'd like to preface this with maybe I should have thought better of it. But listen, I think that this match would have actually fucking kicked ass if you get the two of them in a good way to go. No one gets kicked in the head here. It's Goldberg versus Chris Benoit. I really, really like Goldberg's intensity, and I think Benoit could have gotten a great match out of Goldberg. Goldberg in WCW still wants to work. He's still like actively interested in, putting on a great show. I advise anyone to watch Halloween Havoc 98 with DDP. Watch some of his stuff with, where he runs through like Raven. I think Goldberg and Benoit would have had a really fun match. Benoit using a lot of submission based to kind of, ground this beast that just wants to plow through everything. I thought really hard about having Goldberg pass out in the crossface, but then I thought, gotta be a little realistic here. Goldberg's probably going over, but I think that this match would absolutely kick all kinds of ass.
Thumbs up on at least changing it up from what they have done. Yeah, I could get on board.
I don't think they ever had a match, did they?
I'm aware of. No. They may have done he might have been just someone that he squashed along the way.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think, but I don't even think that they did that to.
They never had a competitive match.
Yes, I think this would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything.
Yeah, Goldberg was pretty much out of the Benoit was out of the company a couple of months later from this, which was when he probably would have been in a collision course with Goldberg, because he was they made him
world champion by that point.
Yeah.
I see that there's a match on Nitro that's Brett and Benoit against Goldberg and Sid against Nash and Hall. That might be the only thing.
And that sounds kind of like in the realm of what I would have been thinking of here, where there's a lot of crossover appeal. Because one of the things they were doing in 99, I thought it was really interesting, was they had like this collective of Sting, Luger, and Page as heels against Flair, Brett, and Hogan. And you say that now and it sounds like fantasy booking in itself, because you don't think like that they would ever be on the same side. But I kind of tried to keep some of that going. In the United States title match, Jeff Jarrett with Ron and Don Harris defeats Psycho Sid to win the belt because it is 99. He is the chosen one. Sid could probably take a guitar shot, no sell it, do the Memphis, back away from Jarrett, some shenanigans with the Harris boys. Jarrett's going to win the belt, but obviously, not clean because he's a heel and it's 99. And I always kind of like Jarrett as a mid-card champion.
I'm liking some of your ideas better than mine, for sure.
as long as it's for the mid-card title, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I think they did have a world title match, but Jarrett is my mid-card staple, and I think Sid at 99 anyway is kind of over the hill. But, he did the Millennium Man thing. He was on a bit of a collision course with Goldberg. He had just beaten Benoit for the belt. I like the idea of him passing it over to Jarrett here. Now for my main event. It is a triple threat match for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. We have Sting as an uber heel who's been wrecking shop with Luger, and they have Buff with them. You have Hogan. Oh shit. Fuck. I skipped the match. Sorry, hold on.
What a swerve.
So this would have gone in between the Page match and the Goldberg match. I do apologize. It's an I Quit match. Ironic. I don't know how I skipped it when it was literally the first thing I said. Well, I'm doing that. It's Ric Flair and Shane Douglas. Shane Douglas fucking hates Ric Flair. He always did. I don't know if he worked himself into a shoot with that one. Shane Douglas cannot stand Ric Flair. Was always something they teased doing. I think they literally ran promos for it on the last Nitro before the last Nitro, and it just never happens. My idea would be it's an I Quit match. Flair wins. Douglas goes away because we already kind of know at this point that his wrestling career outside of the XPW stuff isn't long for this world. But I think it would be a shame to not do Flair, Shane Douglas. And I think an I Quit match, it was a great backdrop for them. They both have a history with Terry Funk. Flair being an I Quit match with Terry Funk, Shane Douglas doing all this stuff in ECW. You could bring Funk in for some promo segments. A lot of this is just, I hate you. I hate your guts. We're going to have a brawl. And, Flair would win because he's Flair. And I think it would be the best match of Shane Douglas's career if he could have ever wrestled with Flair.
I didn't know that too much of their history together.
But yes, now back to my main event. WCW World Heavyweight Championship Triple Threat. Sting as the heel. Hulk Hogan as your babyface. And in the neutral position, we have Bret Hart. Bret, had a hard year. Obviously, this is the year that Owen unfortunately passed. And he had taken a lot of time off because of that. He kind of comes back and says, literally what he does in the show. How many world title shots have I had since I got here? 0. Well, I'm going to change that. I'm sick and tired of seeing Hogan and Sting feud. They were feuding when I got here. I'm always playing second banana to Hulk. Tired of doing that. I want a title shot. You kind of get into this thing where Hulk has, Flair in his corner. Sting has Luger. Bret Hart's been, palling around with Chris Benoit and the non-Shane Douglas members of the Revolution because obviously, he can respect their love of wrestling. And in the background, you have Hall and Nash, who have been just sort of showing up at shows in the crowd, just, goofing off. And they've been doing this whole time. You see Hogan talking to them because NWO. You see Sting because, Wolfpack. And obviously they have history with all three men. Essentially, this is leading to the formation of NWO 2000. Yes, I did go with that.
Boo.
You know what? Because I think either way, Brett's leaving my show with the belt because I think Brett got the shaft. And I think it'd be kind of fun to see him fuck around with Hall and Ash for a few months. Because at the end of the day, as much as everybody I just mentioned is probably in the Hall of Fame, if not on the cusp of it, so many of these guys are just in reality like not long for the wrestling world after this. Hogan until like 2002 kind of just comes in for like one-offs with the New Blood and kind of fucks off. Brett unfortunately does suffer that injury, doesn't have much left. Sting, we already know, leaves at some point, comes back for the last Nitro, and then isn't doing anything until he signs with TNA in 05. Like, I just wanted to play around with these different people. Is WCW or is NWO 2000 a cop-out? Little bit, but I think I'd like to see Brett be the leader of that, because one thing we can all agree on is Brett is fun as kind of a, smarmy little prick. He really is. Like, he's not as hateable as Shawn Michaels, but he can really have a lot of fun in that way. And I think seeing him kind of take over this mantle where he can kind of just go, you know what? You were never going to give me a fair shot anyway. So, of course, I, had these guys thinking they were on your side, when in actuality, we were taking over for you many, many years ago. Sting can kind of go away, come back as a babyface. Hogan, I like Hogan as a babyface, and I would have liked to see what he would have done if he had more top level people to work with and not Billy Kidman. I think there's a lot of fun here, and that's my card. My card is Hogan, Brett, and Sting. Seems like it makes sense and something that if it was today's era would have happened. Goldberg, Benoit, would have loved to see it happen, and everything else is sort of just, that sounds like a fun match to me on paper.
I can definitely say I would enjoy that a lot more than the actual Starrcade.
It's hard not to.
That's true. But I mean, I like some of those ideas. I like some of them better than some of the ideas I'm bringing to the table. I'll say that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that is definitely an improvement. I do have to say I'm not super keen on the idea of Hulk Hogan being in a main event in 1990, in the end of 1999. Still,
I hear you, but I also think you're gonna main event a pay-per-view in April of 2002. It's not like this is completely unfounded.
I know, but it just shouldn't be the case.
It shouldn't be the case. I do agree with you. But we got him, so we might as well use him. And obviously, if I'm speaking for myself, I would say the three matches I'm most looking forward to would be Goldberg, Benoit, the main event triple threat, and Rey Mysterio, Randy Savage. But I thank you. That was my card. I will now bow out.
You want to go next, Callum, or do you want me to go?
It's up to you. I'm fine with going.
I feel like Callum probably has a better card, so why don't we get
I'll do mine out of the way. I was kind of feeling the same way. All right, so I am starting off with a United States Championship match between Chris Benoit, defending champion, babyface, against Dr. Death, Steve Williams. And it's just a match of two guys beating the crap out of each other, and Chris Benoit coming out as the look at how tough he is, what a fighting champion type guy.
So
Again.
right away, I have to say, it's funny because you're normally a guy who, when we talk about AEW, you're like guy versus guy. I don't really feel it, but that's like the perfect guy versus guy match, and I think you get both guys in the right circumstance, and that's a fucking match I'd like to see.
Story for some of these matches is pretty much look at who the two guys are, because I don't have as much context to work with about, like, well, Dr. Death at this time was doing this or whatever. I will say there are some major changes that I have to what they brought to the table for Starrcade that I am like, not a fucking chance. Like Oklahoma, no, not a thing, not a part of this whatsoever. Never would have agreed to that. I think it's not only like an insensitive thing to do, but it's just dumb. So there is no Dr. Death is teaming up or part of anything with Oklahoma or whatever. There's no creative control group on here because, number one, I don't like that group concept. And number two, I don't think you should make a pro wrestling stable about the idea of we know that it's fake and we want to kind of lampshade that. I don't like that at all.
That was very Vince Russo.
Right.
But bro, the fans, they know they're in the level with us, so they'll be laughing along with us, and we'll be rolling in dough.
And I mean,
nobody was rolling in dough, bro.
Maybe that's the thing that convinces Liz to flush. So you're not going to see that. You're not going to see as many ridiculous gimmicks of something on a pole or whatever. But I did try to give at least some of these like a name or something, or some kind of a vibe to them. So since we're turning into the new millennium, I wanted to have a little bit of a theme of, and it doesn't apply to every match, but a little bit of a theme of out with the old, in with the new. And I don't want to do like the new blood. I don't want to do like it has to be a younger guy against an older guy, especially because it's like, am I really going to build a card around Mark Jindrak against somebody? And, okay, I got to put a whole lot of focus on Elix Skipper as like the maiden cruiserweight or whatever. So you're going to see that some deviate from this, but in general, Chris Benoit is kind of the new guy in this, and Dr. Death is kind of treated as like the old school type guy, even though it's not necessarily the case. So babyface Benoit wins this. They just have a match. Then we get a literal out with the old, in with the new type match. The revolution of Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn, and Shane Douglas against a team that I have not figured out a name for yet, so they're tentatively just named Hogan's Buddies, because it's just sort of you used to team with Hogan and you're old guys. So Jimmy Hart leads up a group that's got Brian Knobbs, the Disciple, and question mark. Take your pick between whoever you think would fit the best out of these five. I have my preference of my my order, kind of. My least out of those five would be Brian Adams, because you could go a little bit with the Crush kind of thing, but I don't necessarily think that necessarily fits. Then it would be Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Reason why he's lower is because I think he's more of a babyface. Number 3 option would be Barry Darsow. I think that's where you get into like, yeah, I could see that. Maybe, yeah. Number 2 option would be Terry Taylor. And my main option would be whatever the fuck you call Virgil, because look, I am not calling him Shane. I'm not calling him Curly Bill. But we're going to go with something that's close to Virgil in a way that it's like, okay, well, we all know that he's fucking Virgil, and that's who we're bringing to the table here. Him, Brian Knobbs, and the Disciple lose to Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn, and Shane Douglas, because out with the old, in with the new. It's not going to be a great match.
You should put that on the poster.
Right. It's not going to be a great match. This is more symbolic than anything else. That's why it's at the beginning of the card, is to just be like, hey guys, remember, this is the last event in 1999, and when we switch over to 2000, a lot of things are going to be fucking different.
It's very 1999 of you to even think about, like, well, it's 2000, so it's 2000.
Exactly, yeah. I came just shy of calling something the Y2K match. And I'm like, well, it's not quite 1999 to 2000 switch over, but, I was trying to think of a way to, like, work that into some sort of gimmick name or something. Couldn't think of it.
You're hard in the right place. You're trying to put the younger guys over. So that's something.
Yeah. And obviously, like,
I can honestly say that's more than I did.
Yeah, you get somebody like a Dean Malenko, a Chris Benoit, they're out of this fucking company soon anyway, but I'm not supposed to know that yet. Just like I'm not supposed to know what happens with Chris Benoit, so he gets treated as like a major hero in this. You got the New Jersey boys against each other. Babyface Diamond Dallas Page against heel Bam Bam Bigelow. Just pretty straight up. DDP wins.
Yeah, I mean, again, Bigelow's one of those guys who a year before this is tearing shit up in ECW with Taz. And DDP, same thing, He's really finding his stride. I think you get them in the right circumstance. That's the match I'd watch.
He, Bam Bam, I should say, would have been potentially swapped with the heel that I have in the hardcore match. So I'll get back to that, but I ended up swapping them and thinking that this worked better because you got the Jersey guys against each other. And apparently they had been a team, just prior to this. And also, hey, look, the team broke up and now they're feuding. There you go. Clearly that's not like a young against old thing because DDP is basically the same age. So, if even younger, is he younger than Bam Bam? All right, I mean, it's Bam Bam younger than DDP?
Bam Bam was probably younger.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised to hear that Bam Bam was younger.
I didn't even think about that. You have a WCW Women's Championship match. I'm adding that belt to the mix. I don't know fucking why, because we don't have a whole lot of people on this roster, but we'll do it anyway. Medusa beats Mona. Mona's the heel.
Molly Holly makes for a good heel. I don't know if she would have at this time, but she does make for a good heel.
And the match, at least, would be one of the better ones of the card, which isn't saying much, but still.
You know what's why I'm proud of you? Not only are you putting over young talent, but you put women on this card. I'm proud of you, Tony.
And it's not just Kimono Wanalaya in a bra and panties match or something. I'm sure Vince Russo would have booked that. Leia Meow.
Okay. I almost said kitty kitty bang bang.
See, I'm sure if Vince Russo would have thought of that, he would have thought that gone in that direction instead. That's a better name. Yeah, so Medusa beats Mona. Certainly wouldn't have just been calling her Mona. I probably would have given her some other name, but yeah, Molly Holly's not a thing yet. Then we have
Lotta.
What's that?
Mona Lotta.
There you go. You got to book it. Mona Lotta versus Kitty Kitty Bang Bang for the Women's Championship. Then we have what I call, it's not really the official name for it, but I just called it this on my, what do I label this so I don't lose track of what it is? The Grudge match. Kidman is accompanied by Tori Wilson against Vampiro, accompanied by Daphne. I'm thinking Kidman's the babyface. And fuck it, I'll go with Kidman winning that.
Very on brand for WCW to label something the Grudge match about 5 years after the grunge scene moves away. So I like what you're thinking. These are the right guys to do so. Raven's not here, so yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I started to work on this card, I was like, oh, can I do like a Ravens flock thing? And I'm like, fuck, he's not on the card. Okay, shit. So Vampiro against Kidman. You got Tori and Daphne that they can fight ringside or something. They can get involved. It's not going to be the last time you hear that same kind of idea. This actually might not be too bad, Kidman against Vampiro. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure they did it, and I'm pretty sure it was okay.
Yeah, Vampiro was always he struggled to adapt to the American style for a while, so I don't imagine it'd be super great at this point in time, but we'll see.
You got a 6-man tag. The Filthy Animals, Eddie Guerrero, Conan, and Rey Mysterio Jr. are the baby faces, and they beat the Blue Bloods, Dave Taylor, Fit Finley, and Steven Regal.
Yep. Yeah. I don't see a reason why that match wouldn't be good.
Yep. That's the sort of match that I would enjoy.
It's a match and I'd watch it.
There were so many different ways that I was thinking, how do I do something bigger with Eddie Guerrero and Ray, and how do I involve Regal in something that, would be like a singles match, maybe for the United States title or something. And the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, I can group these guys together and I can put some other people in some other spots and all, whereas some other people I couldn't figure out ways to get them on the card. And I wasn't going to just make, hey, there's a team of like Ernest the Cat Miller and Glacier and Lash LaRue against whatever and try to justify it. So I'm like, Filthy Animals against Blue Bloods. Yeah, okay. They could be two warring factions at the time. And you've got like the Revolution and you've got this, Hogan's buddies type thing. You can have these kind of, you're in that gang warfare type of time frame in WWF. Maybe we'll do the same in WCW. I don't know. You got the unofficial name for it, the Legacy Wars match. A heel David Flair, accompanied by Ric Flair, against a babyface Dustin Rhodes, accompanied by Dusty Rhodes. I am not the biggest fan of this David Flair heel character that they had at Starrcade, but if they were putting a lot of emphasis on him at the time and all, let's go David Flair and Ric Flair cheat to beat Dusty and Dustin. I mean, it's not a tag team match, but you know what I mean. Ric Flair ringside does something dastardly,
I can't be in favor of putting David Flair over anything. I'm sorry.
I would have preferred if it was Rick versus Dustin, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you got the old.
To say, but I get where you're going. Though.
Yeah. Singles match between Macho Man Randy Savage and Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett being the heel. Jeff Jarrett gets the win because I know that Macho Man is basically out of the company. He's not even there for Starrcade 1999. But I'm working under the assumption that over that October, November kind of time frame that maybe I can change enough things where he could at least agree to do this match and put Jeff Jarrett over.
I officially like my idea better, but
I like your idea better. Like, say.
Yeah, Savage and Jarrett was the one TNA match we never got. When Savage just decided, you know what, I really think I'm good, and he went home.
It's a match. There's no real story that I got in mind. Jeff Jarrett's an ass, and Macho Man is like, hey, fuck you, pal, or whatever. That's basically all you need. We have a bathroom break. Oh, go ahead.
As I said, there's a lot of thought gone into that. It's good.
Yeah, we have a bathroom break here. This is something that I've kind of decided to do for almost all of my WCW things, in the sense that I always like to do a big man buffet. Anytime I'm booking a WCW event, you're going to hear this type of phrase from me. The Nitro Girls are dancing. And I'm going to incorporate 3 count in this, and I'm going to incorporate Disco Inferno and Berlin. This is going to be one of those dumb segments where all the dancing type characters and music based people have something stupid for everybody to just go, yeah, no, I think we can get another drink. I think we're going to run to the bathroom or something. You need a break. This is like basically a full blown WrestleMania that I'm booking. So, hey, I'm working with, I
applaud you for fantasy booking a bathroom break.
Yeah.
Right?
Hey, look, when you have this going on, this might be one of the most fun segments of the night. You got 3 count singing, Nitro Girls dancing, Disco Inferno and Berlin interrupt and get their asses kicked or something. Yeah, you know what? I'll take that over David Flair. So you go from your bathroom break, get that out of the way, and you get your hardcore championship match to follow this. Your babyface champion. I mean, who is more of a babyface than Meng, right?
Okay.
So Meng versus Sid Vicious.
Really?
Like,
I don't.
Look, I might be a
Don't hit it.
terrible person here, but I mean the whole like Psycho Sid and Meng being this, you know, I mean we've heard the stories of Haku and all, and then there's like the Arn Anderson side of things and all. I'm like,
Oh, good lord!
you could play into the whole like what's happening in this match. We don't fucking know. You gotta watch it, you know.
that sounds like a very Vince Russo way of approaching things.
No. Vince Russo would have booked the scissors on a pole match.
Right? I'm not going to quite go into that.
Yeah, but then at one
range.
point during the match, one of them's supposed to go for a move, but then they fall out of the move, and then the commentators start talking about, oh, he's not going along with the script, brother.
Yeah.
Well, Meng is twice the man that Sid is, and maybe
I
we
think
do
if
some.
Sid gets hit hard enough in this match, it would explain the line, I have half the brains that you do.
Funny enough, one of the ideas that I had, and I couldn't really justify it just for this joke, but I thought about doing Scott Steiner against Sid in something related to math. So that Sid couldn't figure out half the brain versus Scott being like, you know, you got 33%.
Okay, it's time for my regular reminder that Tony's middle name is Vince. I just would leave that there.
I thought about it. I was just like, is there a way? And I even thought about, is there a way for me to incorporate that with the Y2K thing and trying to like figure out 2000 this and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, you know what? It's fucking 4:30 in the morning. I gotta wrap this up and start doing the other ideas that I had in mind. I worked on this, way before the Royal Rumble and all, so I'm burning myself out of that range, and I'm like, yeah, I think I'm going a little bit too crazy on that. So instead, it's Meng against Sid Vicious. Meng gets the win, retains the hardcore championship, and Sid lives to fight another day. The WCW World Tag Team Championship match is Harlem Heat, accompanied with Midnight, because why not? Throw her in there too. Booker T and Stevie Ray retain. They are the babyfaces here, by the way, against Buff Bagwell and Scott Steiner with Asia.
Damn, we were so close to having the same match.
I mean, you got Asia, you got Buff, you got Scott Steiner. I'm calling them the big bad Buff Daddies.
I just wanted to let you know that Rick Steiner is right there.
Yeah, I thought about putting him still in the varsity club, and spoiler alert, they don't have a spot on the card.
Yeah, shame on you.
To be fair, Buff and Scott were a tag team.
Mm-hmm.
Quite well.
Fair enough, but like, you know, we're fantasy booking.
And picture, you got Buff standing in the ring with Scott and Asia. You know where they're going. They're all the, super muscular, like, we're going to beat the shit out of you. Look at our muscles types. This is a match I call No Laughing Matter. Because I'm lame like that.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Can I...
You want to guess?
Please tell me it's Hugh Morris versus Norman Smiley, just because they both...
Ding, ding, ding.
I thank you for your nutty backside.
It is a heel Hugh Morris against a babyface Norman Smiley. No Laughing Matter match.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
And Norman Smiley gets the win.
What is that big man buffet?
Not gonna lie, this was my favorite thing that I booked on the card. You're not a fan of it, Callum?
I mean, I'm very much indifferent to it.
Let's see. We have a fatal 4-way, or I guess they didn't call it fatal 4-ways in there because it's the WWF thing. Did they have a name for the 4-ways and triple threats and stuff?
No. Eventually, everybody just adopted triple threat and fatal 4-way.
Huh. So it's a 4-way, 4 corners. Let's call it that. 4 corners, number 1 contenders match. This is kind of another one of those like out with the old in with the new type philosophies, but more so just the out with the old in a way. You've got Curt Hennig, Lex Luger, Rowdy Roddy Piper, and Sting all against each other for, look, you're all aging out of that top spot, but if you want to figure out a way to become champion again, you got to beat some of your contemporaries. And I'm thinking Hennig and Luger are the heels. Piper and Sting are the baby faces.
You threw me for a swerve there, bro, because I thought it was like you were saying out with the old, and then you proceeded to say, here's 4 old guys in a match for the number 1 contendership.
Mm-hmm. But it's like one last chance in a way.
Okay.
Not in the sense that it would be like, hey, like Luger and Piper and Sting lose this match and they never can get another title shot again or anything along those lines. But I'm going Curt Hennig winning this. And I mean, if you look at what Piper does after that, you look at somebody like a Sting continues to wrestle and all. I think Hennig's one of the guys that, with the benefit of hindsight, let's do the match that I'm going to lead to and do it, So Curt Hennig beats Luger, Piper, and Sting. This is one of your bigger matches that you're heading into the card with. Not the craziest, not no laughing matter, but
no, nothing can be that good.
The Cruiserweight Championship is a babyface Chavo Guerrero losing the title to Juventud Guerrera. Because Hoovy, why not?
I think you should flip that. Well, I guess the Juice is kind of a heel when he's doing like the Juice stuff, but
and Eddie Guerrero's in the Filthy Animals as a babyface. I'm thinking Chavo's going to get some of the positive babyface kind of love when it comes to that. Hoovy doesn't want to be a part of the Filthy Animals, so they're kind of feuding part of that. Maybe Chavo's not necessarily part of the Filthy Animals, but yeah, by proxy.
Fair enough.
It's easier for me to want to boo Hoovy than Chavo, I think.
I think a lot of people would disagree with that.
This is just one of those matches that, I mean, Hoovy against Chavo. Like, we've seen it before. It's going to be fine.
It'll be good.
Yeah. With the out with the old kind of, let's put it to bed concept, I am no fan of this NWO 2000 type thing. I think at this point, it's more than lost its steam. I honestly don't even think that NWO Wolfpack should have been a thing. I mean, if I remember correctly. What's that?
Most people would agree with you.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, I had booked for Starrcade 98 when we did this before. A concept of basically, look, you've got the outsiders as like tweener types. You got like NWO and you've got WCW, and we're just ending it. And since that carries on a little bit more so, and you've got like Hogan is flip-flopping and doing all this, then eventually they wanted to do this whole Bret Hart is going to lead the NWO 2000 with this and that and that. I'm like, I'm going to simplify the whole damn thing. You're getting a triple threat match. Hulk Hogan versus Kevin Nash versus Scott Hall. It's for all the marbles. This is we're done with each other. All of us hate each other. NWO is done. Who deserves to be the guy that kind of like comes out of this whole NWO thing as not necessarily the one that got the most out of it, but I guess sort of here's your flowers in a way. And I thought a lot about the three different options, because in the argument for Hulk Hogan, he's the third man. He's, the leader of the NWO and all that. And it's easy to see Hulk Hogan winning this, just being like, all right, it all ends with Hulk Hogan and that's it. I thought a lot about Scott Hall winning it because he had always been the third person in anything. He never won that world title. He has plenty like size advantage type things over lots of different people, but like, he never was that type of guy. So maybe give him that spot and all. And I thought about Kevin Nash in the sense that he's been in the booking side, and Big Sexy was the guy that beats Goldberg and all these other kind of things. Eventually I settled on, I'm not 100% like stuck and set in stone that this has to be how it ends, but I was leaning a little bit more towards the coolest guy out of the whole thing ended up being Kevin Nash.
That's the way I would go.
So yeah, I think Kevin Nash wins by not beating Scott Hall because it's a little too obvious that he would take the pin. He pins Hulk Hogan. Why not?
Yeah, and this is for nothing but bragging rights, right?
Yeah, there's no title on the line. There's no like you can control NWO going forward. It's just NWO is done. The three of us are going to settle this in the ring. Kevin Nash ends up being the guy.
I think it's really weird that Nash never really is a top singles guy beyond the Diesel run. Like, he beats Goldberg, yes, and he does a little bit of single stuff, but it's kind of like I was talking to you off air, where it's like mentally most people don't see Kevin Nash as a singles guy beyond 95, 96.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is a little weird because he was a huge get when they got him. And then he just sort of played second fiddle the whole. So I like the idea of Nashville.
And we're not getting people like laying down in this match or finger pokes of doom or whatever. They're actually going to have a match. And yeah, it's not going to be the best match in the world.
Yeah, I mean, that's the Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash wrestle each other.
But I think if given the proper motivation of being like, this is the end of it and we're all going to do something different going forward, you put everything out there, guys, maybe they could pull this off. If not, at least you got the three of them standing in the ring against each other, and people are making their cameras go nuts.
Is that this is one of those matches where I think the triple threat match type wasn't very popular when they were in WCW, that they never did it. Because I think like that's a match that should have happened if you look at like 2 or 3 years down the line when triple threats become so normal.
Mm-hmm.
The match they absolutely would have done.
Yeah. And there are a lot of people that aren't on this card that I had grouped together. Like I thought about doing some sort of a stable of like Mortal Kombat-esque characters where you got like Glacier and Wrath and Mortis and Barbarian and whatever, but couldn't quite figure that out. I've got a couple people like Shark Boy and Psychosis and La Parka and all that tried to do something with, and whatever. I said the Varsity Club, the Johnny the Bull and Big Vito and Tony Marinara thing. Eventually I was like, I got enough matches as it is, so let's get to the main event. World Heavyweight Championship match. It's Bret Hart versus Goldberg, funny enough. And I got a little bit of tweaks going on. Obviously, the number one massive tweak is, with the benefit of hindsight, don't kick him in the fucking head.
By how much does Goldberg miss that kick in your fantasy world, Tony?
Quite a bit. Or he goes for the kick and kicks something else. Just kicks him in the arm or something.
Catches him and puts him in a sharpshooter and taps
like
5
just,
seconds. Like,
just that 2020 type of thing where you just go, hey, maybe you should duck. And it changes a lot of things. But I also have a change of just the dynamics of this. Bret Hart, full on babyface. Goldberg, full on heel. Because in my mind, they never did what they should have done, which was my ideal scenario, I've talked about this before plenty of different times. Goldberg should have not lost that title in some kind of how do we keep him looking strong and have a heel beat him way. He should have turned heel, and he should have lost that belt to somebody like a Booker T. So I think Goldberg goes into this with a different heel persona of just like, I gotta get back on top. I gotta be ruthless and beat the shit out of people. And you put him in like some gauntlets where he injures people, like fake injures them, kayfabe side of things. But like Goldberg is a new guy, and he is going to beat the shit out of Bret the Hitman Hart. And Bret, I love Bret as like the smarmy douchebag, but I also still do really love straight up, I'm gonna out wrestle you, Bret. So I think this is one of those matches that's akin to that like 94 type of range for me, where Goldberg is very clearly the power guy. He has the advantage all across the board, except for if he gets taken down, then Bret can try to lock him in the sharpshooter and all. And it eventually ends with Bret getting a roll-up kind of small package, whatever you want to do. Just some kind of like, he caught Goldberg in a quick pin.
Like he counters the spear into a roll-up or something?
Or like Goldberg picks him up for a jackhammer.
And he does
and Bret, like, I don't know, like somehow is able to like spin out of that into like a pin, or, I don't know.
Yeah, it's very much like a Diesel Bret kind of style play. I like it.
Definitely not my favorite fantasy booking lineup that I've ever had, but hey, look what you got.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to go about the main event. That's the right dynamic to have to it.
So you can see on your screen right now, I have mine all set up. Some of my notes of no creative control group, less ridiculous gimmicks, etc. Out with the old, in with the new.
Less ridiculous gimmicks. Here's a no laughing matter match.
Yeah, that's the if you're gonna put something on the marquee, it's gonna be that, right?
There's certain things I would change, obviously, as you've already heard my card, but overall, I admire your card, considering that you knew next to nothing about the era going into it.
Yeah, I wasn't watching wrestling at this point, least of all WCW. I had stopped. I don't really know exactly when I had stopped watching wrestling, but I know that it was in 99, because I know I wasn't watching WWF, and I was always a WWF guy more than a WCW guy, but I know I wasn't watching WWF for the 2000 Royal Rumble, nor the setup for it. I had no idea that Triple H had fought Mick Foley in that kind of a feud until I picked wrestling back up in 2006. So I think I was probably, I watched the 99 Rumble and I watched the fallout of that. So it's probably around the summer of 99 is when I was just like, I'm out. And WCW was already something that I didn't pay as much attention to. So looking back on this and going, this is what they were doing. They had this guy, they had, the Misfits, and they had the Varsity Club, and like, what the fuck is happening with all this? Like, it was a little bit of a shock for me. So that's the best that I could come up with, at least for this card. Favorite or least favorites?
I think I like your, hey, let's try to end the NWO thing. Just because as I look at my own card, I'm surprised that I went with Hall and Nash in a, underneath role instead of just putting them on the card, since I'm such a big fan. But I think, of course, I like what you did with Bret, and I like the idea of trying to give Goldberg a different air, because we never really did see Goldberg switch it up. Oh, least favorite is the no laughing matter match. It's ridiculous.
What? That's absolutely insane. You have a wrong opinion. Callum, any least favorite or favorite?
Favorites, I'd probably go with. I kind of like the Benoit Williams match. I think that would work really well. I kind of like the Fatal 4-Way. It's just 4 old guys just playing the hits. That could be quite fun, because they wouldn't have to work as hard if there's 4 of them in the ring. And yeah, the main event makes sense with those dynamics you put together. Least favourites. I mean, I like the idea of the no laughing matter. I don't like the participants, because I don't think it would be a very good match with those two. I'm trying to think. Oh, what was the Sid match again?
Sid against Mang.
Singing. Yeah, it's a fun one too.
A hardcore match.
Yeah. Maybe if it's hardcore, then that's fine.
So you're thinking probably the David Flair Dustin Rhodes match, probably your list.
Oh yeah, probably. Yeah, because that's because it has David Flair in it. So.
Or the Revolution against Hogan's Buddies.
I don't like that Hogan's Buddies is a thing. Like, it's a widely accepted thing in wrestling. Like,
I mean, you specifically put on the marquee that this is not going to be a good match. So yeah, probably it's going to be the best one.
All right, Callum, hit us with yours. Tell us the matches that are actually going to be good.
I mean, I'll try my best.
So far, I'm liking mine.
No, I mean, as far as like, I paired this guy up with that guy, and it's like, yeah, I think that probably would be a good match, because that's Callum's forte, I haven't
really thought out a great like card order for this. I just put the championship matches on top, and then the other matches I'll mix and match them just on a whim, really. But I'll start off with a cruiserweight number 1 contenders match, 6-way, because I like those 6-way matches, which is like fast paced, just bang bang bang. People standing on the apron waiting to get in, they tag in, and it's just everyone going crazy. So it's Psychosis, La Parker, Elix Skipper, Jamie Howard, who's Jamie Noble, Vampiro, and Billy Kidman. Yeah, and just 6 guys just doing all crazy stuff for like 10 minutes or so. And then you have Billy Kidman win.
Kidman's kind of my, one of my, if I think cruiserweight in WCW, I tend to think Kidman a lot.
Yeah, so no quote unquote story with that one. It's just just determining who the next number 1 contender will be. And I'd have Kidman as a heel in this instance, getting the victory there. Then we move on to, let's go with the television championship match. So it's Steven Regal as a champion with Dave Taylor against Fit Finlay with Hugh Morris in his corner. Because I think like if Hugh Morris was Build-A-Mart, and so he can be quite vicious as well. And realistically, the reason why I went with these two is because every time I've ever seen them have a match with each other, they just beat the shit out of each other for like 8 to 10 minutes, and it's fun. So, hey, these two are on the card. Let's have them just beat the shit out of each other for 10 minutes and over the television title, and just have Steven Regal retain it. There are opportunities, but I had like other matches with some of the other superstars that would pair up well with Regal. So decided to go with like an old favourite of his. Like they've had multiple matches in WCW. They had that great match in WWE. I can't remember what show it was over the United States Championship. It was Great American Bash.
Great American Bash, yes, 2006.
Yeah. So I know they work well together. Just throw them in, have a good match with each other.
Yeah, I can never complain about that.
Falls Count Anywhere. Oh, I should have probably done some preamble into this, but now those two matches are kind of like they didn't really have any other big effects to them. But something that does need to be a preamble is NWO's dead.
Yay!
NWO died due to Bret Hart, and it's not because Bret Hart joined them, because that was stupid. It's like the story should have been from 1998 onwards, especially like pretty much 97 onwards when Bret joined, but like definitely through 98 and then into 99 is that Bret's mission in WCW is to get rid of the NWO.
It's a little too similar to the Click, kind of.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much just his whole ambition, is that he wants to become world champion, but first of all he needs to get the NWO out of here because they're just taking over. They've got too much power and too much control over everything. So his job is to take care of all of that. So the NWO is dead, but in their place is a big heel faction, a biggish heel faction, but it's young guy faction. Revolution. Revolution exists, but my Revolution faction is Shane Douglas, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn, Chavo Guerrero, and Sky, who's Stacy Keibler. And Stacy Keibler's just the,
she's the girl.
just the bad
She's got legs.
Yeah. So that's the preamble for this, because now it's Falls Count Anywhere. It's Shane Douglas with Sky against Sid Vicious. And the whole story going into this is that essentially Revolution had basically earmarked that Starrcade is going to be their night. They're going to walk away with as much gold as they possibly can. But this match isn't for a title, but they've drawn the ire of the Master of the Universe. And so the quote-unquote de facto leader of the group, Shane Douglas, who's marshalling all the younger guys and taking them under his wing, is going to try and take out Sid Vicious and basically try and wipe him out of the picture for good. So they have this Falls Count Anywhere match, and you eventually have Shane win thanks to some interference by any one of the group, really. Probably have either Eddie or Dean or someone else getting involved to doing enough to Sid, maybe taking down on the outside, have Shane splashing through a table on the floor, and you just have Shane get the victory, because it's going to be a big night for Revolution.
I'm liking the idea of having Revolution be the through line.
Yeah, they'll be involved in a lot of this stuff.
The much more organized version of my out with the old in with the new.
Yeah. You might like this women's championship match.
Yeah, look at
that. Medusa as champion versus Mona.
Shit match.
Boy,
Why'd you put that on your card?
Boy, what a misogynist I am not putting these two women on this card.
Yeah, Rob.
Fuck me.
But the story that we're telling with the story we're telling with this one is that Mona has been Medusa's protege for the whole of the year, pretty much, and Medusa's held the title, and she's basically, because there's no real women wrestlers in WCW outside of Asia, which she wasn't much of a wrestler, and Midnight, who again wasn't much of a wrestler. She's basically just been taking on a load of Japanese talent, because that's what they would do at this point in time.
Oh, that's what
Medusa
she did in WWF too.
Yeah, exactly. So that's that, and that was what she did when she came to WCW as well. So she's just beating up Japanese talent, and then eventually turns on her because she wants to go after the belt herself. You might have done something where they had a one-on-one match where it was just Master versus Protege beforehand, and Mona didn't get the victory, and so she snapped and turned on Medusa. And so you have the rematch here, and this is where Mona cheats to win, she gets her feet on the ropes or something. She takes the belt from Medusa, and you can tell a story going forward with that, of Medusa being the veteran trying to chase her down and helping establish Mona as a big deal, as the next star for the WCW women's division moving forward.
Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Let's see what I'm going to do next. Let's go 6-man tag. So this is a bit of fun. I saw some other people involved and felt very inspired by my affiliation with New Japan and stuff. And the fact that you occasionally just want to have the old guys go after each other. Because I want to live in a world in this future of WCW where the old guys are still there because they have name value, but they don't have to be at the top of the card all the time. So instead, we're going to have a 6-man tag of, on the heel side, Ric Flair with David Flair, Roddy Piper, and Lex Luger with Bobby the Brain Heenan. And it's Lex Luger, not the total package.
Word, Narcissus.
Yeah. And they're taking on Hulk Hogan with Jimmy Hart, Randy Savage with Elizabeth, and Sting. So it's literally the 3 top 8 faces of the 90s for WCW against the 3 top heels. But even though Piper, almost exclusively in WCW, was a baby face, but he's much better as a heel. It basically just tells the story. It's Piper's pairing up with Hogan, Flair's pairing up with Savage, and Luger's pairing up with Sting.
Makes sense.
and then they're just going after each other. And as I say, the match itself might not be anything special, but it's just like they're all just going to play all the hits. The crowd will love it because it's down the card. They're just in their nice little bubble, not affecting anything super seriously. It's not like these guys still can't work and they can't work their way back up to the card, but this is a nice little thing for them where you've had them like feuding with their respective pairing in the build up to this, and then they just have a big blow off 6-man tag team match on this show. And you'd have babyfaces win, because why not?
Did we ever see Babyface, Hogan, Sting, and Savage all together? Because it seems like
that's all they did in '95.
Like just the three of them against a team like kind of like that.
Yeah, that's
kind of, yeah.
I guess I got to go back and rewatch some of these things because
I mean,
the visual of that.
Yeah, Luger was part of that group as well at that point when Luger was still babyface.
Odd man out.
Yeah, but I think he's better as a heel. Like all the people on the heel side are better as heels. All the people on the babyface side, I think, are primarily better as babyfaces. And yeah, so just have a babyface victory there. Hardcore championship match. Perry Saturn is your hardcore champion.
Cool.
ECW guy, it works. He just throws people around. He's like hardcore in the sense that like Taz is hardcore in that his body is as much of a weapon as anything that he actually uses as a weapon.
What about a mop?
And
I hate you. I want you to know that.
And he takes on Bam Bam Bigelow, who also has a very big ECW affiliation. And so I think it's just like it's two guys who use weapons, of course, but will more just be trying to throw each other around a lot and just outpower each other. The hardcore aspect almost pretty much comes with the fact that they're just doing their moves on the floor, pretty much, or like into the ropes or into the turnbuckles or anything along those lines, rather than needing to grab a trash can lid every now and again. They still do that, but that's not the primary focus. And then a big thing that follows throughout the majority of this show is that Shane Douglas is accompanying pretty much every member of the Revolution now to their matches. So he's out there, causes a slight distraction. That has Perry Saturn to maybe spray a fire extinguisher in the face of Bam Bam, get him up for a vicious suplex, dropping him on his head, and gets the pinfall off of that. So yeah, again, another big victory for Revolution. Keep holding the hardcore title. Singles match, got Meng versus Steve Williams. And Steve Williams is accompanied by Kevin Sullivan. I think that'd be a decent enough pairing, especially if you're going like the Boss T style of Kevin Sullivan. And just the story going into this one is that these are two monsters that have been on decent winning streaks recently, and they're just going to clash heads here. And maybe the winner would get a future television championship opportunity. So, yeah, just think I wanted to make sure that Meng was on the card in some fashion, and Steve Williams seemed to be the best pairing of the people that I had available left to me.
I can see it.
Yeah,
it's fun.
What are we gonna do? Cruiserweight title, triple threat match: Rey Mysterio with Conan versus Junto Guerrera versus Chavo Guerrero with Shane Douglas in his corner. And again, it's just another attempt for Revolution to try and get some gold into the group by trying to take Mysterio's Cruiserweight title. And it's, three flippy guys. I mean, Chavo's not so much super flippy, but it's just like three of the best Cruiserweights you have going at it for however long. But in this instance, Shane does try and get involved, but Hoovy takes him out on the outside. This gives Mysterio enough time, and Conan also helps take him out as well. And that gives Mysterio enough time to hit the West Coast Pop on Chavo, or whatever he was using at the time. I don't think he was using the West Coast Pop, but I think he was basically just using Hurricane Ranas anyway. But Mysterio gets the victory, retains the championship, and Chavo gets berated by Shane Douglas for it. The story that Chavo is like not the odd guy out, but he's there because he's Eddie's nephew, and Shane treats him the worst because he's the guy that he can get a little bit, which would eventually lead to a Chavo face turn much further down the line. But that's the story for now. What's next? Let's go tag team title match. So Shane Douglas pretty much stays out there because next is Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko are your tag team champions. And they're taking on Harlem Heat. And the story of this one is that Harlem Heat were the former champions. They got beat by Eddie and Dean Malenko, and they've had another opportunity and they lost the rematch. So this is their last opportunity at the titles. And the story is if they lose, they have to disband as a team. So you have
For
Eddie
both
and
teams?
Dean. No, just Harlem Heat. If they lose, they have to disband.
Okay.
Eddie and Dean are the champions, so they're just putting their titles on the line. But it's been Harlem Heat's. This is their third and final opportunity, and if they lose, they have to disband. And again, you just do some shenanigans on the outside, and it looks like Harlem Heat are eventually going to get the victory, but just do a bit of miscommunication between Stevie Ray and Booker T. Maybe they like clash into each other accidentally. That allows Dean to get Booker out of the ring. Eddie hits the Brainbuster and the Frog Splash, gets the victory. Revolution retain the tag team championships. Harlem Heat are forced to disband. This will again set Booker T on his course up the card as a main event guy. And maybe you could even have like a bit of a short feud between him and Stevie Ray. Like you have the idea that Stevie Ray blames him for their miscommunication that leads to them having to disband. And Stevie Ray, realistically, Stevie Ray knows that he's the lesser of the two in the team. So this is just an opportunity for Booker T to step it up, head towards some singles gold like the United States or the Television Championship on his way to becoming world champion in the next year or two. So that's that one. Then we have War Games. Because why not? WCW. Put War Games on Starrcade. So, Hillside, Jeff Jarrett with the Harris Twins. Kevin Nash, Scott Steiner, Kurt Hennig with Mark Jindrak as his protege. And then you have Buff Bagwell rounding that off. And on the babyface side, you have Dustin Rhodes with Dusty Rhodes, Scott Hall, Rick Steiner, Jim Duggan, and Chris Kanyon. And again, I was doing some sort of pairing things here. So Jeff Jarrett's paired with Dustin Rhodes, Kevin Nash is paired with Scott Hall, like the implosion. Like now NWO is done, they've imploded. Kevin Nash has gone with Jeff Jarrett and Scott Steiner formed their own little clicky thing. And Scott Hall's on the babyface side. Like you could tell the whole story of Kevin Nash saying that like Scott Hall's a disgrace and he's a drunk and all of that stuff, and Scott's trying to prove him wrong. Scott's on the heel side. Steiner and Rick Steiner is still Rick Steiner, so he's on the babyface side. Kurt Hennig is like, again, he's Mr. Perfect in all but name, and Mark Jindrak is his sidekick, the reflection of perfection. And you have Jim Duggan as like just the everyman is the clear antithesis of Kurt Hennig. And then Buff Bagwell, these are the younger guys, Buff Bagwell and Chris Kanyon. You could have a story like Chris, because they failed to win tag titles from Harlem Heat, and so he gets pissed off, and he's not part of the group with Jarrett and Nash and Steiner, but he kind of feels like he is, like he's a bit of a hanger on, and so it's almost like, as I say, it's another like everyone has a one-on-one feud in this match, but they've all banded together to have a War Games. And as should be the case with most War Games, the heels have the early advantage, but the babyfaces get the victory.
So what's the breakdown of the teams again?
Jeff Jarrett, Kevin Nash, Scott Steiner, Kurt Hennig, and Buff Bagwell against Dustin Rhodes, Scott Hall, Rick Steiner, Jim Duggan, and Chris Kanyon.
Okay.
Yeah. United States Championship match is the semi-main. It's champion Diamond Dallas Page with Kimberly against Chris Benoit with Shane Douglas. So legit just thought these two probably have one of the best matches on the entire card. You have Chris as the heel, but he's the heel that's veering more and more towards babyface going forward. And like Shane's trying to help him, but Kimberly's helping to even the odds a little bit, but just by like slapping Shane Douglas. The referee ends up throwing both of them out, so it's just 1-on-1 between DDP and Chris Benoit. And eventually, after like a titanic struggle, Benoit gets DDP into the crossface, and DDP eventually is just like, he's really close to the ropes, but he has to eventually just pass out. Benoit wins the United States Championship. They shake hands afterwards, which Shane Douglas isn't super keen on. He comes into the ring and just takes the hand away from Benoit, raises it up. You have all of Revolution come out to celebrate. Obviously, Chavo hasn't got his belt, but hasn't got the belt that he wanted. But everyone else is holding titles. Benoit is he's still part of the group, and he's still very much there, and he's their ace now because he's the United States champion. But there's an indication that he's going to be moving on to the babyface side of things and be the one to break away from the group in the next couple of months. And then, again, mirroring Tony, World Heavyweight Championship match is Goldberg against Bret Hart. And as Tony rightly said, what the story should be is that Goldberg should never have lost to Kevin Nash for the World Heavyweight Championship. He should have held
here.
Yes.
Okay.
But the difference is that he's now heel because the crowd have gotten sick of the fact that he never loses. And that's the story you should tell. That's the story they should have told, is the fact that you wait until the crowd are sick of Goldberg, then you turn him heel, and you just have him destroy a few baby faces, and then you get round to him losing the title to a babyface. And part of me wanted to do this with Benoit because I felt, well, Benoit or Booker T were the two that I was thinking of. Well, they're the top babyface prospects moving forward if you want to establish a new young star. But the more I thought about it, the thinking was that, well, really the young star they've elevated throughout this is Goldberg. Goldberg is your new top super heavyweight star. He's the franchise player for WCW moving forward. So you don't really need him to lose to another young and up and coming guy.
Right.
He can lose to the veteran who has spent the entirety of 98 and most of 99 ridding the company finally of the NWO, and then has slowly ground his way back to the top. And so he gets to take on Goldberg. And then similar story to your one. It's Goldberg is pretty much in control for the majority of it, but Bret just keeps holding on. Can't get Goldberg to tap to the sharpshooter, but then when Goldberg gets him up for the jackhammer, he manages to shift his weight enough, wrap his leg around Goldberg's one, pull him into a small package, get the victory. You end it with Bret Hart celebrating as the World Heavyweight Champion. Goldberg's pissed off. And I wouldn't have Bret Hart have a super long reign, but and eventually Goldberg would probably be the guy to win it back from him, and then you can build towards a Booker T or someone else a bit younger winning the title in the future. But yeah, that'll be what my main event is.
The only parallels between all three of us are Harlem Heat tag title match.
Yeah.
And hey, Bret's winning this belt and has a long and happy career afterwards.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. I think especially with Goldberg playing the heel that he doesn't really, we won't need to do any flashy kicks or anything because he's just going to be outpowering Bret and just keeping him down for the most part. So yeah, you have Bret win, you get that celebratory moment of this be his first world title win in WCW 2 or 3 years after he joined. And yeah, it would just be a nice feel good moment to have him be enter 2000 as the champion.
Realistically, if we're just forgetting 99 for a second, if you are in charge of WCW from the moment Bret arrives, how soon does Bret become your WCW World Champion?
Who was champion at the...
Hogan.
Hogan and Sting won it. Sting won it at Starrcade.
This was the Sting finally gets a chance at Hogan. He's going to win the title, and then it's going to be mean fuck all.
That match they built a year and a half to, and then they fucked up the finish of it, and then immediately had him lose the title back to Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, ridiculous. I'd probably go with around the summer. I'd put Bret over Hogan.
Yeah. So me as well, I think I would you're either drawing it out a year or you do it around the summertime. But I can't believe that it took 2 years for him to become world champion. I still think like that was one of the biggest mistakes they ever made.
See, if I was in control, I would. I mean, this would be when Brett wins the title for me. End of 99,
Right, but you would
2000.
draw out the story of him killing the NWO.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That would be his big thing. Would be his role in the company is to kill off the NWO, whereas you make Goldberg your world champion in the meantime.
You go with Goldberg being the guy that beats Hogan, and Brett in the meantime wins like TV title, US title, etc. on his way up the card. And I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think Brett needs any title.
He doesn't win. Yeah, he doesn't win any championship. He just his goal is to just eliminate the NWO.
So would you block it off as like, all right, first couple of months he's taking out Hall, next couple of months Nash is the target, and then you have the end of Starrcade 98 be and he beats Hogan and they're disbanded, and then the next year I'm gonna work my way up the ladder because I want the belt.
I'd have a few like in between feuds for that as well. Like his main focus is to take care of the NWO, but in the meantime, he does get into like altercations with Ric Flair and a few other people, like some quote unquote like dream matches or some other opponents, just to freshen things up a little bit and just have the NWO like gradually fall apart. Like the NWO falls apart both through their own personal politicking and infighting, and then Bret Hart doing the rest by taking them out one at a time in a few matches. But eventually it should fall down to somewhere in the like early to mid 99 should be his victory over Hogan, where he forces Hogan to tap out, and that's you draw the line under it there, and then it's a case of building him up for like Bret's only focus is to become the world champion from that point onwards, and then it's just a case of building him up through feuds. And you could tell a story, especially if Goldberg's turned heel by this point, that Goldberg is kind of dodging him. Like Goldberg's a guy that takes on all comers, but he's a little bit wary about Bret Hart. And maybe you could tell a story about him taking out Bret Hart when Bret Hart's just about to earn a title match, like spears him, costs him a number one contenders match, and then he has to build himself again back up to get that opportunity. That's how you stretch it out until Starrcade.
Do you do World War III in your fantasy world? Because I know like
that could be where he wins it. That could be where he wins the opportunity.
Like you have to beat 59 other men, and then he does because he's the best. And I like that. I like the idea of fleshing out some of the backstories for what we had going on, and I think that's really cool.
I mean, WCW's the story they should have told, the best story they should have ever told was the Sting one, and they stretched it out over a year and a half, and it never felt too tired, or that they just stretched it out for the sake of stretching it out. So I think they could do the same thing with Bret.
Yeah, and learn from their mistakes.
Yeah, actually give him the victory, and then I'd say he doesn't have to hold the title for long in this instance, but it's a case of you have that feel-good moment and you don't fuck it up. You don't do a fast count where it's not actually a fast count.
Right. Cool. I really enjoy getting into your mind a little bit about that.
I like doing these fantasy bookings from, with the different perspectives that we've got, because overall, like, I think that probably the card that I would lean the heaviest towards would be Callum's. I think there's some that I'm not as bored with, like the War Games match. I think the combo of guys is kind of just sort of a little haphazard, but like you give me that through line to the Revolution, and you got instances like Saturn against Bam Bam in there and all. Like, yeah, I could definitely be on board with that. You're ending with like building up a stable, building a Brett. Yeah, thumbs up.
Yeah, I like it. I really enjoy everything that we brought here. Actually, both of you guys insisting that, Goldberg is a monster heel almost makes me want to incorporate, like, obviously you work it because we're in a fantasy world where nothing bad happens. Maybe that kick spot would be a fun spot in a match like that, where it's like, oh no, what, Brett's out of it. Oh my God, what did Goldberg do? And then Brett powers through to get the win. Because the actual finish of the match itself was kind of like a screwy finish, right?
Yeah, it wasn't great.
Yeah, it was. What was the submission? But it's not really a submission. It was like Goldberg had already been taken out by something, and
Like somebody,
Brett
I
just
think,
put the submission
like
on.
Hall and Nash hit him with a bat or something.
Yeah, and then Brett just put the submission on, and they said that he passed out in the submission.
It's a little Montreal screw job-ish and stuff too, and yeah.
Oh yeah, because they pretty much did that for the fucking '97 match as well. So it's like everything was Montreal screw jobs at this point.
Yeah, that's something that I'm not going to sit there and go, just do that again, and keep referencing the same thing and that. But yeah. So tell us what you think. What matches do you like? What matches do you not like? Who's got the best card, etc., etc. Especially when it comes to Magpie, let us know. If we did anything that you were expecting, or if any of us had stuff that you were just like, well, you never would have seen that coming, or whatever. And tell us what your card would be too. I'm always curious about that. So Magpie, if you get a chance, what would you fantasy rebook for Starrcade 99? In the meantime, go along here and do what you normally do with all these different things that we've got going on. Like the hot tags are coming up later on this week. We also have our true main event of this week's normal set of podcasts, which is tomorrow night, not necessarily you'll be able to hear it, but we're going to have, after tonight's episode of NXT, the Vengeance Day predictions. The pay-per-view point stuff's going to carry over into, I think it's Saturday, the pay-per-view is, which we just did Royal Rumble, but hey, look at that. Vengeance Day pops right up after that. So we're going to talk about that Braun Breaker versus Grayson Waller match. We're going to talk about the triple threat for the women's title, the tag team title, fatal four-way, etc. All coming up on this next pay-per-view. Following that, we're going to get into some stuff next week that carries us further through the road to WrestleMania, because next thing you know, after we get through AEW Revolution at the beginning of March, it's just all going to be Mania type content. So next week, maybe we do something completely different. I don't know, but Elimination Chamber is going to be the week after that. We got a couple of blank weeks here and there, so if you have any suggestions of what you would like us to do, let us know. We'll all factor that in and try to figure out plans for that. But next thing you'll be hearing is that pay-per-view point predictions post for the Vengeance Day side of things, and then the hot tags, and then post-show. If you're liking what you're listening to, hit that like button. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at SmarkOutMoment. Make sure you go to SmarkOutMoment.com, see what's happening over there. Go to FanboysAnonymous.com. Check out what I got for that geek culture website. And follow me all over the place on all the different things you can find at AnthonyMango.com or amangotree.com. It's the same exact link. And you should follow what these guys are up to. Rob, fill them in.
Yep, you can follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. Of course, I also have a link tree. If you check out my Twitter or Instagram, the link tree is right there. That'll lead you to not only my other socials, but my work on Fightful and WrestleZone. And as I always like to joke around and say, dudepolice.com, forever coming soon. Callum?
You can find me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. Check out the power rankings for every single Saturday for the weekly update of who's top of the rankings. I can probably spoil that Cody Rhodes and Rhea Ripley will be pretty high up on next week's ones for some reason. But then I can also direct you towards the Fantasy League as well at www.fantasyleague.com. Thanks to my victory, my victory internally for the Royal Rumble predictions contest, it means that I've been able to double up the points of Cody Rhodes between now and Elimination Chamber, which I'm going to be doing, which will be good. Made a good start against Finn Balor, so that's going to work out well for me, I think. And yeah, we'll see how things change. Fortunately for everyone else, it's only a short window before Elimination Chamber, and then it's the long stretch towards WrestleMania where this season will come to an end, and we'll see who will be crowned the winner of the 2022-2023 season. So WWEFantasyLeague.com, keep an eye on all the standings there.
All right, everybody, stay tuned for everything that's coming your way. And thank you again to Magpie for sponsoring this. And thank you for listening to this. We will see you next time. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment. And we're being counted out.